Annabelle, we're back here again, splitting hairs.
I know it's been a while, but we've been planning things.
We have. Don't worry. The content will keep coming. So today's episode is an interesting one. We're going to call it Overture, Concerto, Symphony, Repeat.
Repeat, yes.
And now that's come from those of you who don't really know much about classical music. For the last 20 or so years, probably more actually, the standard way of programming is an overture from the Romantic period, a concerto probably from the Romantic period, and a symphony probably from the Romantic period, because a symphony orchestra is a romantic thing. Okay, so it came to its sort of height in the Romantic period, so it stands to reason that we're going to play romantic music. But that kind of got stuck in the 20th century as being the only way to program overture, concerto, symphony. And so that's our topic for today, is discussing sort of why and is it still like that? So what's your experience as a student, but who has also played? Have you noticed any changes from this?
Yeah, well, the first thing I want to say is that to the audience member that don't really know about classical, they just, they're not in the classical world as a musician or anything. A lot of thinking goes into programming a concert. There's normally a theme, or there's something that, that's like putting together a dinner menu.
Absolutely. There might be a soloist that you're kind of working around, or a conductor will come with his own ideas. Yeah, so it's not just random. It's
not just random 3 or 4 pieces put together. There's always, it's like you're putting something together and it's got to flow. And one of the things from playing in concerts and attending so many more is this standard of overture, concerto, symphony. It's just it's like the basic, it works, like what if it's not broken, don't fix it kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I know, I love it. It's enjoyable. It's just become a standard program structure.
Yeah, it's comforting, it's predictable.
Yes.
Yeah.
But in the last many, many years now...
well, let's say 15, 20 years?
15, 20, yeah. Programming has changed. Those classic structures of a program are still there, but far less than what there is now.
And weirdly, they're turning into more popular venues. Like, for example, our town hall series is more like that than our Masters series now.
I should say the Melbourne Town Hall for those that are not in Melbourne.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So we're a typical symphony orchestra that's had a transformation over the last 15 or so years into, okay, what else can we program that's going to bring audience in?
Yeah, and I think it's now seen as... I think you'll get the people like me that will go no matter what. But then it's like, I think orchestras going, how do we reach more? And that could mean driving out to a country town to put on a concert, or changing the actual program that you're playing. So yes, those absolute standards of pieces, those Beethoven fives, they'll always be there. They bring in people. It's an enjoyable piece. You'd hope the orchestra would enjoy playing it. But now there's movies and gaming music and new commissions, and there's like wonderful collaborations with different ensembles. There's just so much. There's just changing the venue. Like, I do love the outdoor concerts.
Yeah.
There's it's just creating a more diverse programming, more diverse in the artists that come on board. It's going to bring in people that maybe don't want to come and see a full-blown symphony like a Mahler or something like what. But then you go, Harry Potter, and they go, what? Yes. Yeah, and I know those people.
Yeah, me too.
So it's a really wonderful change in the orchestra.
Definitely. Well, let's talk about each one of those things you just mentioned, because that's such an important realization for a marketing department, is that you can do all of this stuff, but you don't have to worry if those people coming to Harry Potter are then going to go and see Tchaik 5. It doesn't matter. Like you said, there are people like you, Annabelle, who will go to everything. you know. So we don't have to try and get crossover audiences. We just have to keep programming. Keep programming. Oh, excuse me.
I'm leaving that in.
Programming all these different kinds of concerts to please everybody. Why not? So movies are really interesting. If anyone's seen 2001 Space Odyssey, that's got your favourite piece in it, Strauss's Zarathustra.
Oh, wait till episode 10 and we'll have a bit of chat about that piece.
Right, so everyone has heard that. Now, the thing about movies and the revival of the symphony orchestra in terms of film scores, that happened thanks to John Williams, who everyone loves to hate, composers we love to hate.
Or Korngold. He was a movie composer before.
Yes, that's true. But what I'm saying is,
did I throw a wrench?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Yeah, Korngold and Prokofiev and a lot of Walton. A few of those people were writing for films, but that was when orchestras were still popular. And then there was a big sort of period of a few decades where synthesizers were coming in and movie soundtracks were becoming more experimental. Sort of strange sound effects.
Maybe the music was really thought of more in movies as what can really make a movie, you know?
Well, let me tell you what happened.
Okay.
What happened was there was a more experimental approach to movie music for a couple of decades, and then John Williams came along, and with the producers of these movies. So, first of all, everyone thinks John Williams is a plagiarist. I don't. Actually, not everyone thinks he is. But let me tell you what happens in movies. The producer goes, hey, here's Stravinsky's Rite of Spring. We want you to make this scene sound like that music. And they're called temp tracks. So the composer, if he wants a gig, he's going to have to create music that kind of sounds like classical standard repertoire that the producers want the scene to sound like. So John Williams is an absolute master at that because he can mimic any style. So it doesn't matter what you throw John Williams, he'll be able to write his own version of that style of music. So the best thing about movies and movie scores and John Williams and all the people that followed him and came before, as you say, this Korngold, there's all sorts of composers who sort of set the stage in terms of that. This is a symphony orchestra. We're going to write music that sounds like a symphony orchestra, and it's going to be the soundtrack to this visual experience, right? So the best thing about orchestras now, how they play movies now, like the orchestra is on the stage and the screen is right there, is that it really highlights the 100% relevance of a symphony orchestra now.
I was about to say,
yeah.
if you have a Harry Potter film or Star Wars on the big screen, then you've got the orchestra in front of you. It's taking something, this entity of a symphony orchestra that some perceive as being pompous and elitist or whatever, and it's bringing it to new generations. It's making it relevant. Yes, it's bringing in, income because it just means more people will go see it, which means the longevity of orchestras can continue.
Absolutely.
Which is incredible. And then it's just sort of like, guys, this is what we can do. Like, Hedwig's theme from Harry Potter is something that is exceptionally difficult to play.
It's one of the hardest things I've ever played in my career.
And if you have sat there in the cinema and watched that film, when that scene comes, you wouldn't even notice that music. It's just sort of it's not overbearing to the film.
But
then when you see it, or if you're the musician playing it, you go, oh my gosh, it's actually really difficult. And if the orchestra's there in front of you, you can see.
Yeah.
It's there in front of you being created. And that's why I love live music, because the music is being but when I mean,
I know,
live,
performed,
right then and there, in front of you.
That's right, and it brings a new appreciation.
That's what I'm getting
from the general public to see. Oh my gosh, that's what an orchestra does. Oh my God, look at those violins; they're going crazy. And you know, everyone's seen Harry Potter, so they're sitting there kind of half looking at the screen and half going, oh my God, that's what Quidditch looks like in terms of music, you know.
I'll tell you this, my friend, I can call her out by name because she loves me, but Erin, my friend, is the only person that I approve of being that utterly obsessed with Harry Potter. I'm that Harry Potter generation. I adore it, but, you know, when the last book happened and the last film happened, I went, that's a seal on that part of my life, and some people have continued that on, and it's like, okay.
Oh, you mean they continue to be obsessed with it?
Yeah, just a little bit. But Erin, she, in my book, she gets away with it. But she was there. She doesn't really go to... I dragged her to Mozart's Requiem, but she doesn't really go to classical concerts, but she will line up and buy the Harry Potter film ones. And she told me she was there and she's watching the movie. She's like, wait, I've watched this all the time. I know every scene. Why am I not focusing on the orchestra?
Yeah, exactly.
The orchestra's right there. So it's just a different
It's a fantastic experience for people who think they don't like classical music. Oh, I would never go and see MSO. How boring. But it's like sit there and watch Indiana Jones and see what the orchestra has to do.
You know, I went to the Star Wars ones, and that's at the big plenary. What is it?
Plenary theatre. Yeah.
Yeah. And mind you, you're going there to see a film that everybody's seen. We know Luke and the father, and we know that, we're not surprised by it. And then, yes, we're going to see the orchestra, but you walk amongst the people there and they're dressed up, and you've got R2-D2 walking around, like it's just it's just this awesome experience, and it brings people in that
normally wouldn't see an orchestra, and that's great. That's what makes it relevant. So video games is the same thing. We often record for video games, and sometimes we do concerts that present particular gaming
Final
houses
Fantasy.
music. And that's another thing. And gamers actually really fussy about the music.
Can I tell you a story? Can I tell you a story about this one? Okay, so if it's not established now already, like, I'll just go to anything, right? And any concert. And I was walking in my door one afternoon about maybe 4:45, and my friend rings me and he goes, hey, I've got tickets to MSO tonight. You want to go? And I said, yep. And I just walked straight out the door. I had no idea what it was. No idea what the concert was. I'm like, sure, free ticket, good. We ended up having like a really good seat, and we got them complimentary. And it was Final Fantasy. And I like gaming music, but I'm not a gamer and I don't know anything about this. But I was like, yeah, cool. I have no idea what to expect.
Excellent.
And it was one of the best ones of that year that I went to.
Oh, wow.
And I just saw the audience was just full of people that, were these gamers that love this music. And I, as someone who's not a gamer, no idea what to expect, I went in and loved that concert as well.
Yeah, that can also happen. Even with standard romantic repertoire. If you've never seen a symphony orchestra, just go. Just just blindfold yourself, pick a book, like what are they called? Season brochure. Open the page randomly, put your finger down and go, okay, I'm going to go and see that concert, and just see it. Like, why not?
Yeah. So, I mean, orchestras still do the classic repertoire, which, don't worry, that will always be there. There's things like the movies, but then there's also now this I've seen in the last not just several years, and I'm sure it goes further back than that. Orchestras really putting up new composers and commissioning works and really great collaborations to have a nice balance between your Beethoven 5, your Tchaikovsky 6, your Mendelssohn Concerto, and, modern composers that are still alive, and different. Yeah.
Yes, but even that, orchestras tend to separate out into another thing, which I think is a good thing. Like with my orchestra, we have something called the Cybeck composers, and we have Metropolis, and so we do a lot of workshopping with young composers and established composers. So we've got a big sort of following for that. Not as big as the standard stuff, but there are people who want to see what is being written now for the symphony orchestra. I mean, some people complain like, oh, well, symphony orchestra is such an old-fashioned romantic thing. Why are composers writing for it? It's like, well, it's still around. So that's how you get your skill as a composer, is you practice on the instrument, which is classical instruments. And the culmination of that is a symphony orchestra. So even if you're not going to write for that forever, you should practice on a symphony orchestra, because there's still a lot of variety that you can explore and different sounds, different orchestration techniques.
And what does it say to the composers or people that want to be composers when they get this validation from big, professional organizations like professional symphony orchestras saying, we want to put your music up, we want to perform your music? It validates that they can still do that, it's still valued.
Absolutely, it's really great. Absolutely. I mean, you know me, I commission composers a lot, so I know that personal impact that it has on them, and that self-esteem that often in Australia we don't have that self-esteem because classical music's elitist or it's daggy or dorky or whatever. So it's important for classical musicians to be encouraged and to know that they are still relevant in this society.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it still looks like from the audience perspective that that orchestras aren't staying in that 18th, 19th century and like only there's music since then that they still play, and there's value in that, and it's like we said, relevant, and it's just sort of pushing it forward into the 21st century.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, what we're doing is we're preserving the past, but we're also living in the now and doing lots of interesting collaborations. So another amazing collaboration that we do is something with the composer Tan Dun. Now, some of you might not know who that is, but if any of you have seen Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, that Chinese film, Tan Dun was the composer for that. Now, he not only is a film composer, but he's an incredible musicologist. He goes around China trying to preserve ancient songs and beautiful cultural nuances through music, and he spins it all together like a magician and creates these big orchestral events. And I just love him so much. He's so incredible, and I learn more about his culture through him than any other person. And that's special to me because even though I only lived in Hong Kong, I feel like I've lived in Asia, and I really enjoyed learning about all the different kinds of Asian cultures. And
you can learn a lot about culture through music.
And you can learn everything about culture through music, especially someone who's doing it absolutely on purpose to preserve their culture. So that's Tan Dun. And then more recently, Joe Hisaishi, who is the film composer from all the Miyazaki films that you might have seen, Spirited Away, Studio Ghibli films. He and Miyazaki had the same kind of relationship as John Williams and Steven Spielberg, like a perfect match. And he's come not only to play little medleys of his film music that everybody knows, but he also brings his incredibly serious, more intellectual academic music that he is also amazing at. So that's Joe Hisaishi. Really find out the music that he has composed. If you're interested, that's not just the mainstream film music. John Williams has done the same. He's written some serious music as well. But like Gershwin, he's considered by a lot of people as, he's just a film composer. And so that would kind of hurt. But it wouldn't hurt if you were that rich. So I guess I don't feel that sorry for him, And then there are the very interesting composers like Un Suk Chin, this incredible Korean woman who...
Her violin concerto is like, leaves you going, what?
It's nuts so. It's nuts.
It's what?
Oh, it's so hard. It's so chaotic. It's like you can't understand it. But the more you rehearse it, the more you realise, actually, there is some real power in this music. And she's such a serious person. And she's, I remember being on the balcony for one of the small groups that were scattered all over the Hamer Hall. And so this was the first thing I did after recovering from an operation. So I had to have a stool. Like I couldn't stand up. I was really woozy. And we had like only a few little easy notes. So we had to watch the main body of the orchestra just play this excruciatingly difficult, rhythmically challenging, very orally challenging music. And she was just standing there and she was kind of micromanaging it and talking to the conductor and talking to the concertmaster. And then she would turn to us and I felt her power. I was like, this woman scares me. I want to do exactly what she wants. This is so important.
There's something about and this is what conductors need to have, that just commanding like atmosphere coming off them just says, this is what we're doing,
Yep.
and you will do it.
Yeah,
you
the
will follow
charisma.
along,
That's right.
or
That's right.
See you later.
Yeah.
And, that's why not everybody can be a conductor or a
that's
director of this kind of thing. You just have to know what you want before they know it.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
That's it.
And know how to get it out of people. She
Yeah,
was
exactly.
really incredible, like unbelievable. Some of the most difficult music I've ever played. So when we talk about this standard overture, concerto, symphony, repeat, this is really not what orchestras are about anymore. There's so much more to them than there used to be. And it is wonderful, and it's much harder for us as the performers, much harder. It's grueling. It's a constant. You have to practice all the time in your spare time because the next week is not going to be overture, concerto, symphony, repeat.
But when it is, it's still as enjoyable.
When it is, it's like a holiday for us, actually.
As the musicians, yeah. But I just think that, like I said before, those same standards, they'll be there. They'll be there, and they've been done to death in a beautiful way.
And you can keep reinventing them. Like the more we look back and see, okay, what equipment did they use? Those stylistic concerns that we talk about in other episodes. If you reinvent this old music, like say Eine kleine Nacht music, right? Okay, fine. We've heard.
Oh, that's a great one.
Well, we've heard the Academy of St Martin in the Fields play it in the 80s with a lot of vibrato and very heavy, and that's fine. That was the fashion. And then you hear like Musica Antica of Cologne or something play it. It's like different music. So we have this chance to bring it back to basics. What did the composer want? What did he hear? What was the equipment that they used? I know this is a different topic, but even with this standard rep, overture, concerto, symphony, repeat, we can reinvent that and make it sound like fresh, new music if we want to.
And I just want to tell a quick little story about reinventing this, right? The MSO, I think it was last year, performed Mahler 10.
Yep.
You were there in that one, yeah? And I think this was the first time I sat through a Mahler, and I was really tired by the end of it, and I was the audience member. I can't imagine how you all felt, because that's not a nothing, Pete. That's not, Anyway, but the program was really interesting. The first half was this little, they were unpacking the entire symphony, what was going through Mahler in his life and in his head when he was composing it.
Yeah.
So, you can read your program notes and get that stuff out of it, but the MSO actually put it on as the first half of the concert. And, you had people, and there was that actor that played Mahler or something. Like, it was a show. It was a show. But it got the whole audience up to date with where this guy was when he was writing this piece.
Yeah.
And then the second half of the concert, you were all in the performance blacks and you performed like the entire symphony.
Yep.
And everyone was like, we hear what you were just talking about.
Yeah,
we can hear it.
absolutely.
And you can easily just go, right, guys, Mahler 10 this week, and audience will show up. But putting it together that way changed how we were all going to listen to it.
Yeah, that's right. And I have one story that's similar, just before we round this episode up. We used to have a chief conductor who did something called Act 3. So we did Overture, Concerto, Symphony, Standard, and then Act 3 was the orchestra reset, and the audience stayed. They didn't have to stay, but they wanted to stay because they didn't know what this conductor was going to talk about and show. And it was always a piece of new music.
Wow.
And it was always, well, not always new music, but something unusual and something that he talked about for a few minutes, and then we played. And the audience loved it. They loved it because they knew that it was going to be a surprise, but they knew that it wasn't going to be very long. They knew it was going to be very interesting, and they knew that they were going to get their standard fare before they were shown this new thing. It was such a success. It was amazing. So that's just another way that, this conductor felt it was important to show new music, but he knew that it needed a bit of explanation, and he knew that people just wanted what they wanted. So it was like pleasing everyone all at once. It was really fantastic. That's great. Yeah, we are here to stay. Orchestras, we're staying. So buy your tickets.
Well, yes, COVID willing.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so I think you summarised it best. They're staying.
We're here to stay. So
yeah, that's it.
Until next time, take care and stay home just for a little bit longer.
See you later.
Okay,
bye.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Splitting Hairs. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, and if you're listening on one of the audio-only platforms, jump over to YouTube where you can see more content and what we look like.
I'm the young one. Like, share, and subscribe. And we have all the social medias like normal people. So go and follow us there as well.
Awesome. Okay, bye.
Sup, bye.